In an age forgotten by the sands of time, CSGO was a game that had a tradition of sorts. Every now and then it would be graced by a very important event. This event brought happiness to the people as it graced them with new playgrounds and shiny new toys to have fun with. It was a joyous time to be alive back then, a stark contrast to the vast empty desert haunted by double and single line patch notes. Yeah, I'm talking about operations, the thing everyone wants to see happen, but the pleas seem to fall on deaf ears. I want to go back and show you what they were like, as over the years the player base has grown significantly, and I'm sure some people have never experienced one or forgotten what they were even about. To begin with, what even is an operation? Basically, a big content drop as a DLC of sorts that must be purchased to get exclusive access to most of the content. New maps are introduced, missions, game modes, new cosmetics to obtain, or even stories to tell. This event would last for a few months, and once it's over, the content is retired, but in some cases the most popular editions became permanent. During CSGO's lifespan, there were a total of 11 operations, each with its own unique page and content. This might take a while, so strap in. April 25th, 2013, Operation Payback, the first operation. Purchasing the pass for $5.99 and activating it gave access to 7 community-made maps, and the bronze coin display item which with playtime could be upgraded to gold. That's it. Skins didn't exist yet, they came out 3 months later. The original idea of these events was to support map makers as money from past purchases was given back to them. There's no data on what percentage they got, but as stated in an old tweet, over $150,000 was raised. As for the maps themselves, Downtown takes place during a bank heist of sorts with a hostage situation. It's large and open with a very unconventional layout for our typical standard. Feels like a map from a different game in a way. Motel is a very cumbersome map full of various angles and corners where every single possible space is accessible. A cluster of rooms with a packed parking lot and a cafeteria, as you can see by the layout. Seaside is an old classic favorite, very small for 2 bombsite diffuse map with a lot of verticality. This, of course, leads to fast-paced gameplay, and this is what everyone liked about it. Museum, on the other hand, is very simple, as it only has one outside area, and the building indoors features 2 interconnecting large halls with a second floor. Very fast-paced for a hostage map, too. Thunder is a remake of the original version from CS 1.1. There aren't any significant design changes to the layout besides some smaller improvements and also providing each area with more cover. Favela is a Brazilian slum, which is exactly what the word means. It's not big and its streets easily connect to the bomb sites. There aren't any outstanding quirks about this map I could think of. Library is just a single room with a maze of bookshelves. This one feels like a fight yard map more than anything. Despite the weirdness, it's still fun. September 19th, 2013, Operation Bravo. Same $5.99 price, different coin, which had slightly different requirements for upgrading, and it even showed a scoreboard of personal stats. There were 7 new maps and 1 returning. As opposed to Payback, those maps could also be played on casual and deathmatch scenarios. Something new are the cosmetics. Pass holders gained access to drops from the new Alpha collection. Quick side note, the very old weekly drop system was random and timed, kind of like TF2, so getting multiple skins per week was maybe possible. Most would say this collection is rather mid, but I love my FAMAS Spitfire. There was also the first ever self-titled operation case, which anyone could get, but pass holders had higher chances. Yeah, I know, Fire Serpent, moving on. Agency takes place in a skyscraper office complex, aesthetically similar to a familiar map, but vertical and larger. It was very fun and popular, so much so it became permanent later on. Ali is an Inferno lookalike, but again the layout is different. It's rather tight and claustrophobic in certain areas. There's nothing really else remarkable about it. Cash. You already know. Chinatown is another small map. The location is very unique for its time, but although some of its angles may be rather unconventional, it's still pretty intuitive to navigate. Gwalior feels like one big experiment. It's pretty and maybe a little cluttered, but the verticality is the most insane I have ever seen in a CS map. Kinda hard to adapt to unless you play a lot. Ruins. Aztec vibes, yes, but it's still a traditional square diffuse map. Still, I think it has a lot of great detail and interesting design quirks that give it its own personality. One of the best from this lot, honestly. Seaside is the returning map, so yeah. Siege is another old classic. Map makers went above and beyond to redesign not only the visuals, but so much about the layout has been changed to modernize it as much as possible, with great success. Additionally, after the Winter Offensive update, 2 more maps were added, but we all know them too well. February 20th, 2014, Operation Phoenix. This time it costed $2.99. Same maps we've seen before, same coin upgrade requirements, no new collection for rewards. Only thing new was the case, which does have some iconic bangers. I have no idea what they were thinking with this one. Maybe it was laziness, or could have been an experiment to provide recycled content for a lower price. Probably the latter. July 1st, 2014, Operation Breakout. Back to $5.99, and this was redemption. First off, we have the introduction of missions. Now, instead of playtime for upgrading the coin, you'd get mission drops, which were like mail deposited into your inventory. I think it was on a weekly basis. Kinda weird design thinking back at the system. Completing the missions was also how rewards from the 3 new collections were obtained: Baggage, Overpass, and Cobblestone. Best AK Jet Set, Best Silenced M4 Masterpiece, and Best Deagle Hand Cannon right here. That's all I'm gonna say. Also, new Operation Journal for stats like before, plus a leaderboard for your friends. New weapon case with the butterfly knife. Skins were alright, but nothing special. As usual, 6 new maps were introduced. Rush takes place in a tropical swamp with large open areas where there's only shacks to hide in and some verticality. It definitely leads to bizarre gameplay. Insertion is a very popular classic. Taking place in Sweden, it's the opposite of a CS map, being as open as possible, similar to Rush with only a few houses to look after. Black Gold also in a way breaks the typical mapping standard by featuring multiple ways of approach with an unconventional verticality to surprise opponents from. Castle is not just what you'd expect. One part is an open forest with river, then cave, and of course, the castle. Another very untraditional layout with interesting angles. Mist is some sort of military bunker on a hill. It's full of balconies and tight corridors to traverse through the multiple levels, but it's not difficult to understand. Overgrown has a simple layout taking place in a storage facility. It looks rather stuffed and tight, but I assure you, it's not hard to follow. November 11th, 2014, Operation Vanguard. This is such a one-of-a-kind event. First off, coins, yes. Now, some things have been improved. The journal on top of personal stats contained the new campaigns, a mission progression tree, with I think 2 unlocking per week. Completing the tree was rewarded with stars that upgraded the coin. There were a total of 2 campaigns to complete with 21 missions each, but there were also 2 more sold separately for $2.99 each. Why so many? Well, completing each mission gave a reward, either the new Vanguard case or a drop from various skin collections. Some were from those still actively dropping today, others were from older retired collections. Then, also the 3 new returned. I know some people are nostalgic about the journal, but I think the idea of additional campaigns was also fantastic. Some missions having a reward that might be a legacy drop was amazing. Anyway, Arms Race got an update plus the usual 6 maps to play around in. Back Alley is a remake of an old official map. It's the same for the most part, with some much needed improvements. Workout is an absolutely massive complex with many very visually distinct areas, maybe a bit too big for its own good. Bazaar feels a lot more like home, in that the design is very reminiscent of typical square-shaped map design, but that doesn't make it not noteworthy. Facade may look like something we've seen before, yet that doesn't mean it doesn't have value, and truthfully, even the layout has its own merit. Marquis takes us to France with locations based on real streets. Elevation varies a lot depending on which part of the map, plus some indoor spaces. Season is a remake of the original CS version. It used to be popular, but for some reason this one didn't catch on. Terrain Remake was also added much later as a bonus. May 26th, 2015, Operation Bloodhound. Same price, same coins and journal, and 2 campaigns with 30 missions each, this time with more challenging options to accrue more stars, as the requirements for upgrading the coin are higher and some missions featured either of the 2 new modes, Guardian or Assassination. Something else new was lore exposition through these mission briefings.
My name is Sebastian Enke.
It's really cool, but I think most people didn't care, so that's why they stopped doing them. One new major change which has been a staple since is profile rank up. Skin drops became once a week after leveling up, but cases were still random. So besides stars, the missions gave XP. Leveling was also how exclusive drops were earned from the pool of 6 collections, 2 returning and 4 new. Glock Twilight Galaxy, Ogaki Habara except M4 Poseidon are the best skins. My opinion is fact. I know cash was introduced earlier, but this is where it started dropping. Also, Falchion case with a new knife exclusive to pass holders. Lastly, as usual, 4 new maps were introduced, with Season and Agency also returning. Log is a very standard map with a non-standard design, not because of the visuals, but the very interesting snakeway paths. Resort is very large and expansive. It might make you feel lost, but that isn't exactly the case since its paths leading to bomb sites are simple to navigate. Rails is not train. No, seriously, its layout focuses more on various pathways that lead to open spaces where the bomb sites are. Zoo is not just that, but also there's an aquarium on the inside. Overall, it's very clean, focusing on rounded angles rather than fighting around boxes. There was also Crash Site exclusive for Guardian missions. We never saw this map again. Bloodhound is where I started participating in operations, as before that I didn't think it was worth it, but this was so much fun exploring the missions, new maps, and praying for a good drop. But most were bad, except I did get a Scout Detour FN, which I still have today. February 17th, 2016, Operation Wildfire. This is where these events became an annual thing, much of the same design as before, so here's what's new. Blitz missions were separate from the campaign ones, they appeared randomly and were mostly just for bonus XP. The 2 campaigns now had a specific focus. Gemini was comprised of 23 Guardian mode missions and 3 all-new co-op strike missions, still like Guardian but longer and more story-driven. Plus, they took place on exclusively made maps. Completing them unlocked pages from a comic explaining a story. This would be the first and last time it appeared. Wildfire campaign, on the other hand, was just the typical missions we already knew. Cosmetics-wise, it was all the same. Case with Bowie knife and same 6 collections for rewards. Cruise is a massive ship with 2 floors to explore that are just as large. Beyond that, there isn't anything to get too caught up in. Coast takes us to Italy. At first glance, it isn't anything special, though I have to say it has these small areas that lead to interesting positioning. Empire embraces the New York architecture in this extensive industrial facility full of all kinds of hallways and bomb sites at different elevations. Mikla relishes in its long-distance layout, and this is something very often encountered within its corridors and street-ridden layout. Royal is kind of like a cobblestone visually, but in Scotland, and it's mostly based on open areas connected with indoor spaces. Santorini brings us to Greece, if that wasn't obvious. Every area here is close and connects easily in multiple ways all around. Tulip, corridors, alleyways, bridges, and deadly water. You know, typical things you'd see in the Netherlands. It, however, does offer long-range positions. Also, the remake of Nuke was released here, but it wasn't really part of the operation. I have a really old video of my drops from Wildfire. Didn't get anything good, besides an MP9 Pandora's box in minimal wear condition. May 23rd, 2017, Operation Hydra. This is a very big favorite of mine. Tons of game modes were introduced with weekly event rotations. Wingman was born here, and Weapons Expert, a competitive game with limited weapon supply. These 2 had their own separate Hydra ranking system. And third was War Games, a collection of various quirky modes, some of which were already existing community ones. Oh, and as always, anyone could participate. Now, on the other hand, there weren't any big innovations, and some features were not present. Coin went up to Diamond at 25 stars. Cool, but there was only 1 campaign with 30 Guardian missions. No co-op strike or much lore exposition, but each mission had its own unique audio briefing. Same old collections for drops, and Case had the previously introduced gloves. Maps at least were new, a total of 9, with 3 of them, Agency, Black Gold, and Insertion, returning. Austria features wide angles and lanes, but becomes much smaller and close combat oriented around its bomb sites. Light is a remake of the 1.6 version with some improvements to the layout. It used to be popular, but just like Season, it wasn't the same. Shipped will make you feel claustrophobic surrounded by so many containers, but it's very easy and intuitive to move around in. Thrill is a mixed bag of all kinds of mapping quirks like verticality, indoor spaces, tight corridors, and open plazas all over the place. Rialto was a wingman map by Valve. Unlike the short versions of all the others, it also never appeared again after the operation was done. Dizzy was a classic Flying Scoutsman map that remained permanently along with the game mode. I thought this was the best operation back then because the diverse game modes and events had me looking forward to something. Unfortunately, some people thought it was boring, the content wasn't enough, and allegedly this operation wasn't as much of a success as previous ones. I also made a drops video for this. Again, got nothing cool besides a Mag 7 counter terrace I still have and I guess another MP9 Pandora's box on an alt account. November 18th, 2019, Operation Shattered Web. It was a painful 910-day hiatus. Nobody knows why it took them so long, but they're back. Price of the pass has been increased to $14.99, and it made sense because the exclusive cosmetics had a lot to say. Brand new agent skins, weapon case with a fresh new set of knives, and 3 new weapon collections finally. Mag 7 Synquidea and Glock Synthleaf are the best skins. Also exclusive stickers and graffiti collections. As for campaign, the journal was replaced by weekly mission cards. With varying difficulty, players could choose what to play and earn max 10 stars per card. Oh, and 2 co-op strike missions returned. The stars not only upgraded the coin, but also progressed the rewards bar to get drops at certain points. Yes, they copy-pasted the battle pass system. Only 100 stars were obtainable, enough to get everything. If that wasn't satisfactory, more stars could be purchased, advancing or resetting the pass to get more drops. Greed is good. Finally, new maps were just 3. Studio's biggest strength is how visually distinct every part of the map is. That serves well in general location recognizability. Lunacy was a new Flying Scoutsman and Arms Race map that remained permanently. Jungle was the first Community Danger Zone map added, not that many people cared unfortunately. It was crazy to see not just a new operation, but also a complete overhaul to its design. Although taking cues from battle passes left people with a lot of items they didn't need or want, I didn't get anything notable, not even a mil-spec skin drop. December 3rd, 2020, Operation Broken Fang. Same price and similar design. Interestingly, there are lots of gameplay updates and features that stuck around, like Premiere, the stupid 360 stats that should have been free instead of turning into a $1 a month subscription, and retakes. Weekly cards were the same with 2 co-op strike missions. Stars were rewarded, but instead of a battle pass progression, there was a shop to redeem any reward from the new cosmetics. Well, not entirely. Besides the agents, which were separated by grade, and the case featuring a new set of gloves, everything else was a collection you rolled for a chance, and the odds, as always, were massively against us. 3 new collections yet again. Welcome to the Jungle M4 is best, Op Silk Tiger is best, and M4 Global Offensive is best. Fittingly thematic, Ancient was introduced here, plus other maps across various game modes. Apollo isn't exactly a space station, more like a museum that looks so good it might distract from the main objective. Engage is also a very visually impressive car factory, and I am sure the layout won't disappoint either with its very tricky angles. Frostbite was a danger zone map I wish remained because it was cool, man. Elysian and Guard were the included wingman maps. Although not much changed in the operation design, I really liked the fact there was a focus on new features to the game, probably my favorite from this new era. I definitely spent all my stars and more on skin drops. My best drop was the SG553 Hypnotic, I still keep. September 21st, 2021, Operation Riptide, rolling with the same as before. What was new were private queues, riot shield in hostage mode, short matches, and different deathmatch styles, droppable nades, and other misc/weapon changes. This was all great, but didn't feel as substantial as before. For some reason, there weren't any co-op strike missions. Cosmetics were all new, of course, but with about the same structure. Train 2021 collection was, I believe, an experimental thing by separating the skin grades like agents. Stickers came in clumps of multiple versions, which was also interesting. Case has Gen 2 knives with Doppler finishes, which weren't new. If it wasn't evident, the 3 collections were also new. Galil Amber Fate is best, Deagle Fennec Fox is best, and SG Hazard Pay is best. On to maps. Basalt presents us a peaceful Norwegian village with geysers. I'm surprised it didn't catch on considering how simple it is to learn. Insertion 2, a sequel that lives up to its predecessor, same exact open map design, this time with even more places to hide in. Ravine and Extraction were the two wingman maps. County was another danger zone map I personally really liked and wish stayed. I don't know what happened here. Still a cool operation, but something wasn't right. Perhaps as always with Valve, it was laziness, lack of co-op strike, game modes, and cheap collection logos. Supposedly there was some data mined info alleging that official surf maps would be a thing, but got cut. It did kind of make sense looking at the theme here, but we may never know for sure. I got nothing cool from drops, but did have some luck in trade-up contracts. Alright, that's it, I'm done. I'm certain in the future there will be more operations, hopefully with some overhaul or refresh. Either way, I'm sure people will find a reason to complain as always. At least, this is certainly the entire timeline for CSGO's operations, and it was quite the journey. What started as a modest way to support map makers became yearly big gameplay updates and enticing gambling addictions. Oh, Valve. Whatever happens, I remain optimistic. Not as much as I look forward to putting rubber feet on my furniture because scratching your floor is not good, but some furniture is so heavy, man.